This stuff here is pricey and it's only been getting more expensive. But did you know you can make your own potting mix or bagged compost cheaply? There are just 3 ingredients in these. You can mix them in 3 minutes and your plants will love it. And the ingredients these use can either be found right here in the garden or at any garden centre. Let's get started. But first, let's have a look at our standard sort of bag of all-purpose potting mix or multi-purpose compost. This bag cost me £8, which is around $10 US, and at 40 litres in volume, that works out at a princely sum of 25 cents or 20 pence per litre, and that soon adds up when you're filling up something like this. So today we're going to look at 3 potting mixes that work out considerably cheaper. In the spirit of saving a pretty penny, let's start with the cheapest mix of them all. A general purpose potting mix ideal for those on a strict budget and suggested by none other than the Royal Horticultural Society. It's ideal for bigger or longer living plants such as trees, shrubs, fruit bushes and perennial flowers. But the best bit is it could cost you next to nothing or even nothing at all, and we'll be looking at a mix for slightly younger plants in a bit. The bulk of this budget-busting mix is simply garden soil, which I'm taking from several spots around the garden so I don't leave a big old hole in one place. Now, soil will help to add sort of stability and weight to the mix, which will be really invaluable for plants that are going to be growing in the same container for multiple years. Do get your soil from an area that isn't covered in weeds, so it hasn't got weed seeds in it, and definitely avoid areas with perennial weeds because those can be quite hard to get rid of. If you happen to have any molehills like this, by the way, well, lucky you. This has got a beautifully crumbly texture, which is absolutely perfect for potting soils. Those moles have only gone and sifted the soil for you. What obliging fellows they are. And then to add some nutrients, open things up a bit and create the best possible structure, I'll be adding some sort of organic matter. That could be garden-made leaf mould, well-rotted manure, or in this case, some garden compost. And then I've also got some grit. More on that in a moment. At the very basic level, we really only need garden soil and our organic matter, compost in this instance. And I go for a ratio of 7 parts soil to 3 parts of our organic matter. However, my soil, as you can see here, is very kind of heavy, claggy and clayey, so it doesn't drain very well. So to get around that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the soil element down 1 part to 6 and then replace that with 1 part grit to help with drainage. On the flip side, if you've got very free draining sandy soil that dries out a little bit too quickly, then you might want to swap out 1 part of your soil with just 1 part more of your organic matter, your compost or your manure. So you would have 6 parts soil and 4 parts organic matter. Great, we're all done. Let's give it all a good mix in together. Now, I'm going to put the cost of this on the screen now, and the cost to me is just the grit that I've added. And that brings the total cost per litre to just 9 cents or 7 pence, an absolute bargain. And if you're not using the grit, then, well, this has the potential to be absolutely free. I've got some salad here, some lettuce to make a point. These cost the same, but this is 1/3 the weight of this. And it's exactly the same for pre-made potting mixes. You're paying for convenience, but as I hope I'm showing today, it really doesn't take that much effort to make your own. And that's especially the case for our next mix, a seed starting mix. This achingly straightforward mix uses just 3 ingredients. Now the bulk of this is going to be this stuff here, coconut fibre or coir. This is a byproduct of the coconut industry. It's simply the husks that have been shredded into this kind of really fine and rather beautifully crumbly texture. What's really great about this stuff is it's completely light and very sterile. And that's really good because our seedlings are quite vulnerable at such a young stage. And that means if it's sterile, there'll be less risk of things like fungal diseases, molds, or fungus gnats on the soil. You could potentially use your own sifted garden compost, but I just prefer to use this stuff because I know it's lovely and clean. My other two ingredients are perlite and vermiculite, and both offer good advantages. Perlite is, would you believe it, volcanic glass, and it's a bit like popcorn. It's heated up, and then explodes into this really lightweight, almost polystyrene-like consistency. Now this stuff is sterile as well, and it's great for opening out a mix because it's so lightweight. It helps with drainage, so we're going to be including some of that. Vermiculite is also lightweight and sterile, and also made by heating something up. In this case, a naturally occurring mineral called magnesium aluminium iron silicate, or aluminum for our American friends. It doesn't exactly trip off the tongue, does it? But come in closer and let me show you why it's worth including. Its texture is very much like kind of layers of flaky pastry, and those layers will really help to hold on to moisture and nutrients. So while our perlite here will help to open out the mix and help it drain, the vermiculite will help to hold on to a bit of that moisture. We want a nice balance of both. So let's start with 7 parts by volume of sifted or sieved coir. Now, the reason I'm sifting it is just to remove any kind of longer bits of strands that will get in the way when we're trying to sew. Won't cause any harm, but just makes it a little bit fiddlier. This can just go into the bottom of pots or something, or makes a nice little go-to. What do you reckon? Anyway, on to the next thing, which is 2 parts by volume of perlite. Now, perlite can throw out a bit of dust, and we don't want to be breathing that in. So if you're mixing small amounts, just breathe away like that, or just put on a mask just to be on the safe side. It doesn't really matter what you use to measure out your ingredients, so long as you are consistent with your measuring apparatus. And then finally, 1 part of our vermiculite. Right, now I'm just going to give this all a good mix up. Now, if you're mixing bigger batches and you don't want to spill anything, you can find it easier just to put this into like a big bucket or something, or wheelbarrow, for example, and give it a good stir that way. Makes it a bit easier. But this small batch, it's fine on the table like this, and it's already coming together, look. Oh, this is just like cooking a perfect pie. The total cost for this mix is summarised here. Now this works out a lot cheaper than your average seed starting mix or seed compost, and yet it doesn't scrimp on any of the good stuff, the vermiculite and perlite, which makes it, in my humble opinion, a genuinely superior product. So next up is my all-purpose potting mix. Now there are several ways you can approach this. I'm going to be using a mix that makes use of garden compost and then adds a few goodies as well for extra nutrition to really help support plants, whether those be young seedlings, young plants, or indeed veggies, and it'll help to support them for longer. So let's start with our garden compost, which I'm just going to sift to give a nice finer texture. Any kind of lumpy bits or woody bits that are left can either be put into the bottom of a bigger pot before filling it, or just thrown back onto the compost heap to carry on degrading. So I've got 2 parts garden compost in my barrow, and now it's in with 2 parts of the coconut coir fibre stuff here, and I'm just giving it another sift as well. I tell you what, on a slightly chilly day, all this kind of shaking around like this doesn't half warm you up. And then finally 1 part perlite. So just to reiterate, we've got 2 parts compost, 2 parts coir, and 1 part perlite. Now I'm not going to bother adding any vermiculite because the compost on here will do a really good job of holding on to moisture. The perlite here is going to add good drainage, and that compost is full of nutrients, really rich stuff. But I'm going to add a few more little treats to this to really supercharge it. So first up is this stuff. It's volcanic rock dust, otherwise known as azomite. This stuff will really help to encourage microbial life in our mix, and it's a good source of trace elements and minerals. If I add a handful like that, it'll get released slowly over time and give our plants something to get their roots into. They'll really love this stuff. It's a real treat. And then the second thing I am adding, and it sort of exploded in the post on the way to me, is some worm castings. Now this stuff here is really rich, beautiful stuff, full of nutrients, full of good stuff and life, vibrancy. And along with the compost, it will help to inoculate this mix with kind of all sorts of microbial life and good stuff. So I'm going to add in basically 2 handfuls of these worm castings here. Now, if you make your own worm castings, then I would just go ahead and add even more than this. And actually, I'll link down below to our video we did with Charles Dowding, where he makes his own worm castings, so you can see how to do it very cheaply. If you can't get hold of worm castings for any reason, then try something like kelp or seaweed meal to really give your mix here a boost. I'd say it's time to get in there and mix it up. And here are the final figures for this mix. Now, the volcanic rock dust and bought-in worm castings are not cheap, but so little of them is used that it has really minimal impact on the final cost, making this genuinely outstanding mix come in at less than half the price of a pre-mixed potting mix. And just look at it, it's such beautiful stuff. This stuff is great for potting on or for container growing vegetables and annual herbs. I'm going to be using it to grow on some of my seedlings. What a joy it is to use your own homemade mix. I'm sure you'll find these 3 very simple potting mixes really useful in your garden, and you'll have saved an absolute bundle too. I'll catch you next time.